Okay, so we're going to create a placement system. But first of all, I show you guys what it actually is. So the first time I saw this was on Enigma's latest Wars map. NANI? And he was kind enough to let me borrow his map as a good example. And you can see that if a player gets like top 3, top 10, or whatever, he gets some bonus points, which is realistic to the actual game. Okay, so let's first of all get that out of the way. The system in itself is very easy to create, and you don't need a lot of stuff, you don't need a lot of tech knowledge to create this. But the system is very hard if it comes to non-perfect environments. So if you always have a 16-player map, so if you always have 16 people, then this is no problem at all. If Fortnite is not buggy, then this is not a problem at all, right? But there are a couple things that you need to take care of. I will show you guys not how you can fix them because that would take forever, but I'll show you guys some workarounds that you can do. Okay, so let's start off. We need two different things. The first is the tracker and the score manager. So these are necessary to make it. And then we can also use the HUD message device, which kind of gives us a little, you are top 10 and you get 2 points. So it's not necessary, but it's very cool. And so people see that actually got points for something. So let's start off the tracker. There are a couple settings in here that we need to change. The first one is start to track. So this one can basically anything. You can decide on how you want to do this by yourself. You can do it with channels, it works. Then you have to set it in the inventory settings. So people, when they get eliminated, you have to set their channel in there. You can do it with eliminations. So for example, the first 6 eliminations will be top 10. Or you can do it with eliminated, so the first 6 people that get eliminated is also top 10. So you can basically play around with this and see what works best for your map. Obviously, the target value depends on what kind of placement you want to have. Obviously, for top 10 and down from 16 would be 6 players. And then another one would be down 5 players to top 5 or whatever. Or 11 players, depending on how many things you want to put in there. So that's obviously all on you. Okay, so the next setting is quite important, and we want to set that to all. The reason for this is we have individual and team, and both of these only count for individuals. So that means if a player does 6 kills, obviously he gets to top 10, but a player with 0 kills also gets to top 10, but he does not get the score because he never reached 6 eliminations. So keep that in mind if you're setting up stuff in here. So that depends obviously on what you're creating, but for the most Zone Wars maps, all should be fine. Okay, so the next 2 on the list are only important if you are using channels over in the first stat to track option. So on this, obviously you want to set a channel in here, which is the same on your inventory or team inventory settings. And you obviously want to have this to 1 because 1 kill counts as 1 point. So make sure that you have this, but this is only important if you're using channel. If you use eliminations or eliminate, it doesn't matter. And obviously the last one, if the tracker is completed, you want to send a signal over to a score manager, and we're going to go over to the score manager now. Okay, so over to the score manager. This device is kind of hard to understand, especially if you're new, because it doesn't give you a clear description of what it's actually doing. So in here, we actually don't need a lot of settings. The first setting, I show you this in the overall thing, is the score value. So this is basically determined on how many points you get for activating this thing. Obviously, let's say we want to have top 10 and we want 2 extra points. So we're going to set in 2 in here. If you want 1, then obviously you put in 1. You know, you get the point. Everything else is kind of unimportant. And there's a lot of stuff in here which is unimportant. Okay, so the last setting that we need in the score manager, which is kind of a hidden setting, and it actually does not really give a good description. Send score to activating player when receiving a message on this channel. So obviously, if you're new to devices, then this is, I don't know, this does not really explain what is going on. But what this basically does is it actually gives you the score in your actual score, which is important, obviously. So we want to set that to the same channel as in our tracker. So activate when receiving from is the same channel as when completed in this one right here. So when this one gets completed, it sends a signal to this one, and this one gives us the 2 points. And obviously that is all you need to do. Okay, so as I already said, there's only one device which you can add, but you don't have to. It still works without this device, but it looks neat. So You can put in a message in here like top 10 and then it shows on the screen. Obviously, it depends on you. You want to have the time from round, you want to have that on off. Obviously, you don't want to have it at the start of the round. Text style obviously depends on you. The only thing which is important is show when receiving from. You have to set that to the same channel as the completion on your tracker. So it shows up the second the tracker gets completed. And that is basically all you have to do for a scoring, for a placement system. So, okay, so I have set up some bots so you can actually see if this is working. And we're going to set this to not channels, we're going to set this to eliminations because bots actually count as players and you can set an elimination in there. So we're going to see if this actually works. So as you can see, the bot has spawned and you can see also in the top left corner, I have a 0 to 6. I think you want to disable that if you're actually putting this in the zone map because this could confuse players, but obviously for the sake of showing this, I leave it on. So if we're gonna kill the first bot here, you can see it puts up a 1. So that means the first player got eliminated and we can continue this obviously. And if I come to the last bot, you can see in the top left corner, it is completed and we actually get top 10 plus 2 points. And you can even see in the top right where my scoring is, we got 2 points for this, which is nice. Everything seems to work. Okay, so now all you have to do is you obviously do not want to have only top 10. You want to have top 5, you want top 3 or whatever. And then you want to have the victory royale. So basically all you have to do now is create a full new set of trackers, set it up to 11, that would be top 5. Set up a new channel, so we go here, when completed transmit on, let's say 4, and then you go over here, make a new score, get that as well. So let's say top 5 is 3 points and we want to set that to 4 as well. And let's go over to the hot device and let's make it top 5, give this 3 points and make this 4. So this is how you can create, and you have to obviously duplicate this a couple of times depending on how many tops you want to have. So obviously for victory royale as well. And that is how you can create it. But as easy and simple as this sounds, it is actually not, because you not always will have 16 players on your map, and that is obviously not going to work then very well with our tracker, because obviously if you only have let's say 14 players on the map, then the target value is still 6, and that will be not top 10, that will be top 8, and then obviously your hot message device gives you complete wrong information. So that's not good. Thank God there are very cool things in here which you can do. For example, you can assign stuff. So for example, if you just have a certain amount of players, you can assign this different trackers. So you can make, like, for example, you can make multiple trackers. For example, they're all for top 10. Let's say this one is all top 10 triggers. And you want to set them each different values. So let's say this is if you have only 15 players, this is only if you have 14 players, and you get the point, right? And then you want to only assign them if you have a certain amount of players on your map. So how you can do this is by simply using something like, for example, the imitator device, the perception trigger, the checkpoint, or even a normal trigger. So all these devices can see players and can track them if they step on certain things. So for example, the checkpoint, if someone steps on a checkpoint, it can transmit a signal. So you can kind of assign that to a different trigger, which then counts all the players on the map, and then it sends a signal to the different trackers, which then activates the right trigger. So hopefully that makes sense. I'll show you guys on the screen, hopefully, if I made the effort to do that, to show you guys how this works in theory. And you all have to set them up. Obviously, I cannot explain every one of them. So here you have players that look and lose sight and whatever. And the imitator zones, obviously, if someone leaves it, I would use this device because it's kind of easy to use. It does not show anything. It's like invisible. So use enter zone or leave zone. So that's something you can use. And then you have to set it up. And it's obviously, if you think about it, it's then also super easy, but it's a little bit more work, obviously. And yeah, that is basically all you need to do. Keep it in mind, you obviously need these kind of mutator zones or something. You need something that tracks how many players on the map. Otherwise, this will completely mess up your placement system. So hopefully this video was helpful. If yes, then obviously I see you guys in my next video. If not, then I don't see you guys in my next video. And if you have any questions, please follow me on Twitter. I answer as much as I can. And I see you guys in my next video. Bye.